students, in this video, we will review questions number 88 to 92 in the 2024 SHSAT Practice Exam, Form B. Grab a notebook and pencil, and let's get started. Number 88, if x times y equals 30, what is the value of 10 divided by x in terms of y? Let's start off by solving for x. Since x times y equals 30, we can divide both sides by y to isolate the variable x. Remember, this is a multiplication bond right here. So the opposite of multiplying is division. So x equals 30 over y. The next part of the question says, what is the value of 10 divided by x in terms of y? So we will write 10 divided by x right here. But remember, we just figured out that x is equivalent to 30 over y. So we can replace x with 30 over y. We now have 10 divided by 30 over y. When dividing by a fraction, we will multiply by the reciprocal. So we have 10 times y over 30. We can go ahead and cancel out the zeros here. So our final answer can be written as 1/3 y or y over 3. So the correct answer is choice F. Let's continue. Number 89, on the number line above, how many units longer is QR than PQ? So we will calculate the length of QR. We will then calculate the length of line segment PQ, and then we can subtract the two quantities. Let's get started. The length of QR is equivalent to 5 1/6 minus 3, which equals 2 1/6. The length of PQ equals 3 minus 1 1/3. This one is not so simple. We're going to need to convert 3 into 2 3/3 so that we have a fraction for both the first number and the second number. So 2 3/3 minus 1 1/3 is equivalent to 1 2/3. The question then asks us to figure out how many units longer is line segment QR than PQ. So we're going to subtract the two quantities. QR minus PQ is 2 1/6 minus 1 2/3. The first step is to get the denominators to be the same. So we will multiply both the numerator and denominator of 1 2/3 by 2 over 2. We now have 2 1/6 minus 1 4/6. Because we can't subtract 1 minus 4, we're going to borrow from this 2 over here. 2 becomes 1, and we will add 6 over 6 to 1/6. We now have 1 7/6 minus 1 4/6. 1 minus 1 is 0, and 7 minus 4 is 3. So our final answer is 3/6, which is equivalent to 1/2. So the correct answer is choice B. Number 90. The distance from W to X is 70% of the distance from Y to W. If the distance from X to Y is 15 miles, what is the distance in miles from W to X? Let's label the information we know. The problem states that the distance from X to Y is 15 miles. So we can fill that information in. We can label the length of line segment WX using the variable D to represent distance. Now we will translate the information in the problem into an equation. So the problem states that the distance from W to X, which is D, is always translates to the equal sign 70% of, right? So we express 70% as a fraction, and of is typically multiplication. The distance from W to Y. So the total distance from W to Y will be D plus 15. This is the equation that we will solve. And the question is asking us to find what is the distance in miles from W to X. So we need to solve for D. Let's solve this equation. We can first simplify 70 over 100. So these zeros will cancel out. Now we are left with D equals 7 over 10 times D plus 15. We can then distribute 7 over 10. Let's see what we have. D equals 7/10 D plus 105 over 10. Let's combine like terms by performing the inverse operation. So we will subtract 7/10 D on both sides of this equation. So it's easiest to express the 1D right here as 10 over 10. because then we can go ahead and subtract these two fractions with ease. When we subtract 7 over 10d from 10 over 10d, we have 3 over 10d equals 105 over 10. In order to get rid of our fractional coefficient here, we will multiply both sides of this equation by the reciprocal. So the 10s will cancel out here on the left. The 3s will also cancel out here on the left. 10 divided by 10 is 1. 10 divided by 10 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. And 3 into 10 goes 3 times, remainder 1. 15 divided by 3 is 5. So D equals 35 miles. So the correct answer is choice F. There's another way that you can solve this problem. We can start by labeling the information we know. So we know that X to Y is 15 miles. We also know that W to X is 70% of the total distance from W to Y. So if W to X is 70%, then X to Y would be 30%. Now we can set up a proportion. We have 30 over 100 equals 15, which is the part, and T, which is going to represent the total distance from W to Y. Now we can cross multiply. So we have 30T equals 1500. We can then divide by 30 on both sides of the equation. We have T equals 1500 over 30. Let's cancel out what we can. So the zeros will cancel. 3 into 3 is 1, and 150 divided by 3 is 50. So the total distance from W to Y is 50 miles. Since we know that X to Y is 15 miles, we can go ahead and simply subtract 50 minus 15 to give us 35 miles as the distance from W to X. So F is still the correct answer. So you can use the equation method or the proportion method to solve this problem. Number 91. There are 3 different highways from city W to city X, 4 different highways from city X to city Y, and 3 different highways from city Y to city Z. How many different routes are there for a trip from W to X to Y to Z? We can use the counting principle to solve this problem. So all you really need to do here is multiply 3 times 4 times 3. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 times 3 is 36. So the correct answer is D. But for those of you who would like a visual, let's go ahead and set up a diagram. There are 3 different highways from city W to city X. We will start off at W, we're going to X, and we can go using 3 different routes. 1, 2, 3. There are 4 different highways from city X to city Y. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And there are 3 different highways from city Y to city Z. We have 1, 2, 3. How many different routes are there? So it's going to be quite difficult for us to calculate all 36 routes, but I just want you to see a visual of what's going on here. So you have one route where you can start here at the top and then take this top route and take the top route as well. Or you can take these 2 top routes and then go in the middle. Or you can take these 2 top routes and go in the bottom. Or we can take the top route here and go to the second route from X to Y. And then we can try all 3 of these directions. Or we can take the top route, take the third route from X to Y, and we have 3 different options here as well. So notice there are a variety of ways that you can go from W to Z. So you can use this visual and perhaps label each of the routes with a letter, but it would take an enormous amount of time to write out all the different possibilities. So I wouldn't recommend this route, but for those of you who do prefer to write out the sample space, feel free to do so. Number 92. In Center City, the ratio of people to dogs is 4-1, and the ratio of dogs to cats is 3-2. What is the ratio of people to cats? First, I will label people as P, dogs as D, and cats as C. The first ratio is people to dogs is 4-1. The second ratio is dogs to cats is 3-2. So we can see that we have a 4-1 ratio and a 3-2 ratio, but notice that dogs show up in both of these ratios. So it's easiest for us to get these 2 numbers to be the same. So I will start off by multiplying 1 times 3 and 4 times 3. So we can rewrite the first ratio as 12-3. Now we have a ratio of 12 to 3 and 3 to 2. So let's put the ratios together now that we have dogs being equal. So people to dogs to cats is 12 to 3 to 2. But the question actually wants us to just include people to cats. So I will cut out the D in the middle. And now we have people to cats is simply 12 to 2. But we can simplify that. Since both of these numbers are divisible by 2, people to cats will be 6 to 1. So the correct answer is choice G. If you learned something in this video, please go ahead and like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.